That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see.
Halloween H20 celebrates 25 years. It was released, I think, in August, if I'm not mistaken, of 1998. I was 19 years old. Where were you? Where were you in 1998? According to our poll, 12% of you weren't even born. 12%? That's a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I fully admit, that's a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. That means 12% of you are 25 or younger, or younger than 25. That's crazy. That explains a lot. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. Well, actually, no, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing you. Well, it's back down to 11%. Somebody was like, I'm getting out of there. 46% of you said yes, you did see Halloween H20 in the movie theater. 43% of you said no. 11% of you were not born yet. I did see it in the movie theater with Bruce and my brother Neil. What are your memories of Halloween H20? Does it hold up? Does it stand up? 25 years this year. It's also the 30th anniversary for another Halloween film, which we'll talk about in another video. Welcome to episode 216 of McRae Live, everybody. It is Monday, July the 31st, 2023, 9:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, listen, I mean, 25 years. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years since that movie was released. As I said, I was 19 years old, and I saw it at the Sunset movie theater. I believe it was called Sunset. It's no longer there. You know, one of those old school movie theaters, because what we deem what we know now as just a regular movie theater with, you know, the stadium style seating and, you know, 13 or like, you know, 24 screens, you know, the Coliseum type movie theaters where you go and you can buy your Taco Bell and your New York fries. That wasn't the norm for those of you who were not born yet. That wasn't the norm. That's not how movie theaters were. And I'm not saying I'm old by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't until, at least here in Canada, maybe it was different in the States, but here in Canada, it wasn't until about the mid to late 90s, like I want to say like 96, 97, 98, when the modern, what we would call the modern movie theater today, like I said, with the stadium style seating and the big screens, and you can buy Baskin Robbins and New York fries and, you know, walk into the theater. That didn't exist. That was just starting to come out, just starting to be built in and around that time. And it was really exciting. Like it was, I remember because I had a job at one. I mean, I was just finishing high school and I got a job at the new movie theater. It was called the Coliseum. And there were 24 theaters in there. It was like, what the fuck? It was wild. It was like, what the hell? hell? Because it was replacing what was called the Britannia 6. Britannia was the neighborhood, and there was just 6 theaters, and it was just your regular old school theater that we used to go to in the 80s. You know what I mean? And it's popcorn and soda and candy and, you know, maybe nachos and cheese. Yeah, I think you probably get nachos, and that's it. There were no, like, you know, Baskin Robbins and fucking Taco Bell and all that shit. And so anyways, this Sunset movie theater in downtown Ottawa, of course, being Canada's capital. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to high school. And myself and Bruce and my brother Neil, who's the one that got me into Halloween. Thank you, Neil. In the early 80s, when I was about, I don't know, 4 or 5, it's thanks to Neil. Halloween is my brother Neil's favorite horror movie. I don't know if it still is, but I'd imagine it would be. And he said to me that it was his favorite, yes, because of the music and the mask and the coolness and the atmosphere and all that. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it was also the first horror movie that never gave him nightmares. He would always have nightmares after watching a horror movie, but Halloween he didn't. So he's like, oh, that's it. That's my jam, Halloween. Anyway, so it's thanks to my brother Neil I'm the Halloween fan I am today. And so it only felt right because my brother had moved from Toronto to Ottawa. He was living in Ottawa at that time. And it only felt right that, you know what, Bruce and I are going to go see Halloween H20. Michael Myers is back, baby. And of course, we got to go with my brother Neil. So I remember Bruce... We picked up Neil where he was living, and we all drove over to the Sunset Theater. And it was actually a very nice theater. It had like a row and then an aisle and then a row and then an aisle and then a row. Like it was, for those of you that remember the old theaters, it was very nice. And I believe it had a balcony too, actually. I think it had a balcony, if I'm not mistaken. So it was one of those old school movie theaters. You know what I'm talking about? And, you know, the red curtains that came down and the big screen at the front, and then the red curtains would go up and you'd see that, you know, it was very cool. Even at that time, it was still kind of like, oh, this is cool, because it wasn't the norm, but those theaters were still around. And that's where I saw the special edition Star Wars films, of course, that came out too, because it was one of the bigger screens in town. Anyway, so that's where we're gonna go see Halloween H20. Yes. And of course, we knew at that time that it was, you know, a direct sequel to the original, Halloween 1 and 2, of course, and, you know, erasing all the other films. And so, you know, I was looking forward to it. I wanted to give it a chance to see, you know, what was going to happen. I don't know, but to give it a chance to see what was going to happen. And, you know, we watched it and you know, I think Bruce liked it. I thought, you know, because he's not like neck deep into Halloween like, you know, we are. And so I think he liked it. And my brother Neil and I were a little, you know, we were far more harder on it because, you know, Halloween's our jam. And I remember walking away and Neil and I sort of, you know, looking at each other like, you know, it was okay. You know what I mean? We didn't hate it. And I still don't hate the movie. I don't hate Halloween H20, but I don't like Halloween H20. It wasn't what, you know, it just wasn't what we wanted to be. It was very much a 90s, you know, teeny bopper, you know, Dawson's Creek. And there's reasons for that. This is my opinion, of course. If you feel differently, that's fair. But for Neil and I, who grew up on the originals, of course, we were like, you know, it's not terrible. It's not Halloween 5, you know, but it didn't really feel like Halloween. It didn't look like Halloween. And that's because, of course, the vast majority of the movie takes place in California. And so there was a visual aesthetic and a vibe. And, you know, it was okay. It was the kind of okay that was like, well, we got to see Michael Myers on screen again. You know, okay. And of course, Neil and I are not fans. We're not fans of part 6. We're not fans of part 5. I think I might like part 4 a little more than Neil does. But yeah, we just weren't, you know, not really jamming. But nonetheless, it was a good memory. It was a good memory. I still have the ticket stub. And then, of course, I went to see it again at the movie theater where I worked. because I just finished high school, and I went to the movie theater where I worked. And I went with my brother. No, was it? Yeah. That's right. I was like, wait, was that how it works? Is that how it works? Yeah, because I just finished high school. I know I was 19, but remember, I flunked grade 4. So that's why I'm graduating a little later. But nonetheless, so I was getting ready to go to college, very excited, and I had a summer job at the movie theater, at the new movie theater, the Coliseum. It's still there. I don't think it's called the Coliseum anymore, but it is to me. And so I was able to go and see movies for free. And so it was myself and my friend Brian. This may be like a week or two later, I don't know. And so I went and saw it again with my friend Brian, and because he wanted to see it, and I was like, yeah, let's go see it. So I was able to get us to go see it for free. And then I saw it 3 times. And then I was working late. Now, this was the first summer that the Coliseum was open, right? So, these kinds of movie theaters were like new. It's like, wait a minute, you can get Taco Bell, Baskin Robbins, and Pizza Hut at the fucking movie theater? What? Like, nobody had ever heard of anything like this. It's insane. Like, now for those of you that are that weren't born yet, you're like, that's just kind of normal to me. It's like how like these things are completely normal to you. Like you do not remember a time where they did not exist. Well, there was a time when they didn't exist, and there was a time when movie theaters did not serve ice cream and Taco Bell. And so this was the first summer where that was happening, right? And so the lineups, like from the Taco Bell, like all around, it was insane. It was crazy. Now you go into a movie theater and like, it's nothing. Like, it's just like, it's nothing. But anyway, so it was wild. And so I worked at New York Fries that first summer. And I was working late because I don't think they really do it anymore. But when that first opened, I remember that, they would play, like they would have start times of movies at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I think it was because, it was new, it was exciting. Obviously you make more money that way, or you could lose money that way too, depending, if people are going or not. But it was wild. I was like, wait, I can go see a fucking movie at 1 a.m. Because late shows, like, your regular times were like 7, right? And then like a late show would be like 9. 9:30, 10 would be wild. 10 was like, whoa, 10? I'm talking like at the regular movie theaters that, we grew up on, in the 80s and the 90s, Drive-ins would be sometimes later, but that's a bit different. But the actual movie theater, yeah, like a late show is like 9. So it's like, what? Movies playing at like 1 a.m.? What? It was wild. So I was working late. And I got off at like, I don't know, like 11:30 or something. And my dad said that he wasn't going to be there to pick me up for a little while because he was working, something was happening. And I guess I could have walked home. I could have taken the bus. But I was like, you know what? I'll wait for my dad. You know what? I'll go see Halloween H2O because it was playing at like midnight. Yeah, I know. For those of you might be like, what, midnight? Oh, yeah. Midnight. It's like the midnight show of Halloween H2O. And I'm not talking about like when it was released. I'm talking about like 3 weeks into its run. I know movies sometimes play at midnight now, like Thursday night, preview shit, right? No, this is just like a regular showing on like a Wednesday. And so I caught the midnight showing. It was just me. And I just went to go see it. And I sat there just to kill, 90 minutes before my dad showed up. So I have the ticket stub for when I first saw it, and the other 2 stubs. I didn't have to pay for them, obviously, but I saw the other 2. I still have the other 2 ticket stubs from the 3 times that I went and saw Halloween H2O. And I felt the same way every time that I saw it. It was sort of like, well, this is, it's fun to see Michael Myers on screen, but, I have always been the purist, kind of like, he's not sitting up right. That's not how you sit up. Well, technically the mask would, his eyes, we should not see his eyes. That's how I've always been. That's how I've always been. And I firmly believe that. And I believe my arguments are sound for the reasons to back them up. That does not mean that my arguments can't be challenged, but I believe my arguments are sound and hold a lot of water. So I've always felt that way. But I don't know if Halloween H2O has aged well over the years. I think it's got a very specific identity to it and look to it and feel to it. But I do recognize for a lot of Halloween fans, like I've often said, and you've heard me say ad nauseum, is that for a lot of Halloween fans, it was either the very first Halloween movie they ever saw and the one that got them into the franchise, or it was the first Halloween movie they ever saw in the movie theater, or the first horror movie they ever saw in the movie theater, or something like that, right? Because now we're like 2 years post Scream and 1 year post I Know What You Did Last Summer. So Halloween H2O came out at a time when there was that late 90s horror slasher resurgence, not just horror, but horror slasher, right? Your Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, Halloween H2O. We were in a very specific sort of like a last kind of hurrah for the slasher subgenre because it's never been the same since. The late 90s, the 80s was the golden era, right? The late 70s, early 80s was the golden era. And then by about 86, 87, it started to kind of, come down, 85 even. And then by the 90s, it was dead. It was gone. I mean, there were still movies, Candyman, of course, Child's Play 2 and 3 and Halloween, 6. And yeah, they existed, but they were not, nobody gave a shit. Nobody really gave a shit. It wasn't until Scream in 96 when there was a bit of that resurgence, right? And so, with Halloween H2O, for a lot of fans, it's very exciting for them. There is I recognize, even though I don't feel the same way, I do recognize that there is a huge emotional nostalgic connection to Halloween H2O for a lot of Halloween fans. I respect that. Like I understand it. I can empathize with that 100%. I don't feel the same way. And it's primarily because not that I couldn't have, but I was already, like when I got into Halloween, there was no Halloween 4. There was no Halloween 5. When I got into Halloween, there were only 3 Halloween movies and 2 of them had Michael. And that was it. Like I was introduced to Halloween in 83, 84, when I was like 5 years old, and then I was 6 years old in 85 and 7 years old in 86 and 8 years old in 87. There's still only 3 Halloween movies, right? So I was very much into that. That was Halloween. You know what I mean? And I was like dissecting and so when 4 came out and then 5, it's like, and then H2O, you're like, oh, this feels like, and it is what it is. But yeah, those are, when I think of Halloween H2O, that's what I think of. It's not a movie that I watch on the regular. Like really, full honesty. I mean, I don't really watch any of the Halloween movies except for the first 2 and maybe 4, unless I'm watching them here on the show, like on the channel for like a Two Dudes or, whatever, right? It's not something that I pop in I don't like Halloween H2O enough to revisit it. Now, that doesn't mean I hate the movie. I don't hate the movie. It's not, it's not awful as a film, like as a late 90s slasher movie. It's fine. It's fine. But it is dated to me. And it's sort of, I'm not, and this is not a knock on Chris Durand as a human being, but I'm not a big fan of his portrayal of the Shape. I'm not a fan of the mask, of course. I think the eye holes are way too big. Wolfman's Got Nards would completely disagree with me. He loves seeing the eyes and he feels it's important. I feel it's completely unnecessary and it doesn't canonically make any sense either, because his eyes were blown out. Now, of course, there are some people that say, well, technically he was probably shot above the eyes because when he looks up, you can nah, come on. He was here's some straws you can grasp. But and I don't like the fact that we don't see any burns on him or anything like that. Even Halloween 5, he had burns. I don't like to give 5 too much credit, but even 5, he had burns. So, I just feel that they never found his body. It's like, okay. I just think there could have been a little more effort put into it. I do understand that, it's a direct sequel to 2 and not the first one. So, technically 2 is canon. So he burned alive. Was that him burning? What's going on? I don't know. So there's just, things as the purist, as the anal, excuse me. That's the kind of Halloween fan I am, right? There's things that I'm a stickler about, that I just don't, just don't agree with. But that doesn't mean that there's not redeeming qualities. I much prefer Marion Chambers in Halloween H2O than what she was in Halloween Kills. I wish she actually could have lasted the whole movie in Halloween H2O. I think actually her being a Loomis type character, she was his nurse, for God's sakes. I think you could have had her maybe, maybe she dies, but she dies later in the film. She dies because she goes to California to meet with Lori, and then she dies in like the climax or something. Like, she's just one of the victims, but she at least lasts for like 80% of the movie. I think that would have made me, that would have been better. But I understand they want kind of like that shocking ending, or that shocking sort of end of the prologue. Okay. I'm not a fan of seeing the eyes. It just doesn't, I don't like how big the eye holes are. I hate that shot when he's walking down the hall and it looks like his hair is all over the place. He's just been, electrocuted, and you see his eyes and he's doing that. I just don't like it. So not a big fan overall. Don't think it's the worst in the franchise, but I'm not a big fan. But I do have fond memories of seeing it. Like I said, to be able to see Halloween H2O in the movie theater with my brother Neil was pretty cool because, and we'll talk about this when, on another show, but obviously it's the 30th anniversary of Halloween 4 this year. The 35th anniversary of Halloween 4 this year, not the 30th anniversary. And, I remember in 1988 when I was 9 years old, standing in my kitchen. My brother Neil had turned 18. He's 9 years older than me. And he had turned 18, and his friend Roy was picking him up because they were going to go see Halloween, the return of Michael Myers. And I remember my brother Neil being like, yeah, the return of... Anyways, I'll save that story for the Halloween 4 show. But obviously, I guess I could have gone with him. There are kids back in the 80s that were a lot younger than 9 who were seeing horror movies, of course. It wasn't as strict back then, but I didn't go. So it was pretty cool to be able to see Halloween H2O in the movie theater with my brother Neil, and my best friend Bruce, of course. But that was kind of cool, you know what I mean? And then of course with my friend Brian, and then waiting for my dad to pick me up. I have fond memories of the experience of seeing Halloween H2O in the movie theater. I just wish that I had liked the movie better. I just wish it was more along the lines of what even what 19-year-old Dave McRae wanted. But anyways, Halloween H2O. Nonetheless, happy birthday. It's not, obviously it wasn't released today, but it's this year. Happy birthday to Halloween H2O and to all you Halloween H2O nuts out there that love this movie. I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome. So let's jump over to the poll and see what's happening on the poll here. We have 215 of you have voted. And the question is, did you see Halloween H2O in the theater when it came out in 1998? 47% of you said yes. 40% of you said no. And I gotta admit, I'm surprised that it's this high. 13% of you said you weren't even born yet. Got a lot of youngins. I got a lot of young people. Fascinating. Very cool. Very cool. Now, I know a super chat question did come in. I believe it was just one, so let me get it. It was from... but now is the time to send those questions in. Super chats, regular questions. We'll see if we can get to them for a little bit while I hang out with you guys. Josh McKenna sends in 1999. Thank you, Josh. And says, the thing I respect most about you is that you're always honest about your feelings on a movie. Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that, man. I enjoyed reading your post about Barbie. I agreed with everything you said. Barbie was fantastic. I appreciate your honesty. I could not agree more. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know what Josh is talking about, I did. I had a chance to see Barbie the other day. Yesterday. Yeah, no, it was yesterday? Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Had a chance to see Barbie, and I've been wanting to see it for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's this cultural phenomenon, which is always fascinating, and interesting. And as a filmmaker, of course, I watched the trailer, and I'm not one of these alpha guys, okay, that are, I don't know, massively insecure in their manhood. So Barbie, dude, it's just woke, preachy bullshit, man. It's just woke nonsense bullshit, man. Just fucking bullshit. Okay. All right. Okay. And I'm not saying that there weren't, but I, as a filmmaker, I watched the trailer and I'm like, wow, this looks like just like the set design, the set decoration, the whole, like, I'm just like, and Barbie, it's one of the most famous, like, you don't have to like it and be into a franchise or a property to recognize its cultural significance, right? And so, I mean, whether we like it or not, Barbie it's an icon. It's one of the most famous dolls in the world. Every girl that's ever lived at some point has played with a Barbie. I'm obviously, going to the extreme to make a point. But I'm just saying it's huge, right? It's huge. So I wanted to see it. My girlfriend wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. She didn't drag me. I wanted to see it. And so we went, we watched it. And you know what? I had a great time. I thought it was great. Greta Gerwig, I think, is a great filmmaker. And again, the set design, the set decoration, just the nuances and the attention to detail of all the Barbie dolls that have ever existed and the ones that have been canceled or, discontinued, and how the actors brought those dolls to life, and the nuances of it was just really cool. The reason why, okay, and then people say, well, yeah, but Dave, what about the woke bullshit and how they treated men, and, men are stupid in the movie, and blah, 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 and all this stuff, right? Here's why, okay, because let me be fair, because you guys know I am. Was the film a little preachy at times? Of course, yes, of course. Was it a little on the nose at times? Yes, of course it was. But the reason why I was able to laugh and have a good time is because of the kind of movie it is. It is a over-the-top, sensational satire that is going to the extreme to make a point, right? There is no grounded in reality in this movie anywhere. Barbie Land is a real place in the movie, right? If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So this whole, it's not the same as Black Christmas 2019, which is grounded in reality, right? It's grounded in reality. And therefore, any sort of beating somebody over the head, for me anyway, I think feels more intrusive, right? Because it's like this feels more shoehorned in, whereas in a surreal sort of type of movie that is all these colors and these paintings, and it's like a Salvador Dali painting for 2 hours. You know what I mean? It's like I know when they go to the real world that goes away, but listen, 80% of the movie is in Barbie Land, and it's wild, and it's so the satirical satire, the going to the extreme, because that's what they've done, it works. It works in a movie like this. And so I'm just laughing I thought it was hilarious. I thought Ryan Gosling was hilarious. And how he's like, wow, people really respect me here. I'm a real man, and it's funny. It's fucking funny. It's funny. I can laugh at it. It's funny. I didn't feel insecure or angry or anything like that. Yes, again, were there moments where I'm like, okay, there it is, right? There it is. Sure. But it's Hollywood. You know what I mean? And, but it's also Barbie. It's Barbie, dudes. It's Barbie. It's not Die Hard. It's not Rambo. It's Barbie. What do you expect? Of course it's going to be about feminism, feminism and girl power. It's Barbie. I mean, and maybe that was part of it too, where I'm like, well, I'm watching Barbie. Hey, I am watching Barbie. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting here watching John McClane and Die Hard, like, well, this is a little weird. It's Barbie. It's Barbie. And I thought the writing was really good and the direction was really good. I did. So shoot me. You know, I'm always, you don't have to agree with me. And that's totally fair. That's totally fair. But I think the reason why the wokeness of the movie and the little bit of preachiness of the movie didn't bother me was, again, because of the kind of movie it is. It's wildly over the top and very satirical. And so I'm on for the ride. I'm like, well, this is what I know what this is going to be. So let's buckle up. And I found myself laughing. We both were laughing at the hilariousness of the mockery, right? It's funny, because there's always a little bit of truth in it, but they're going to the extreme. They're not saying all men are dog shit and pieces of crap. That's not what they're going to the extreme to make you laugh. They're playing into both the stereotypes to make a point and hope you kind of get a little bit of it. You know what I mean? But I understand that because of today's culture and where we are and how everybody's like, rah, and all that kind of stuff, I get that for some people, it's too much, right? For the people that are into the culture war and are angry all the time and, and woke this and woke that and woke this, I get that it might be, I get it. And you guys know me. One of my biggest criticisms of Black Christmas 2019 is because it's exactly that. It beats you over the head. But like I said, for a movie that is essentially one big gigantic painting that is very surreal and colorful and fantasy. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy land. I mean, Barbie, like I said, there's real like live action people pretending to be Barbies. I mean, it just didn't bother me in the ways that I think it would have if it was like a live action grounded in real world. Right? You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that makes sense to you. But I thought it was well directed, well written. And I laughed. I thought it was kind of funny. You know what I mean? So that's how I felt about it. And I make no apologies for it, right? Make no apologies for it. Super chat comes in from Brandon Barry. Thanks, Brandon. Sends in $9.99. Says, Dave, thoughts on small budget movies like Sound of Freedom? Do you think it gives hope for filmmakers not to have big budget studios with 100 million budgets? Thank you. Well, I haven't seen Sound of Freedom. I don't know what the budget was for that movie. Let me just see here. What was the Sound of Freedom? Does Wikipedia give a budget? The budget was $14.5 million. So yeah, that's a low budget, certainly in the Hollywood terms. So I would say that I don't know if Sound of Freedom does specifically. I mean, talk to me right now. The new horror movie from A24 obviously was only 4.5 million and it's going to do well. I know that Sound of Freedom is doing very well. It's like knocking on 100 million or something, but it's not unprecedented. I mean, they're not the first movie, the first low budget movie to have done that. So I don't think there's anything really original or about Sound of Freedom in that sense that's standing out to me. Like all of a sudden it's going to start this new trend. No, I don't think so, because it's not unprecedented. There have been many movies in the past that have cost, like 5 million, 10 million, 15 million to make that have grossed $100 million. So it has happened. If it had never happened before, then that'd be a huge story. But it's not as big. How well it's doing is not. Now, it's not a massive studio release either, to be fair. And that's a very good point. It's a lot of word of mouth and things like that. But again, that has happened before in the past. I'm not feeling anything original in that sense, like Sound of Freedom suddenly going to start this new trend. But you never know. I do think, just as a general thing, that, it would be, I think we need to get back to making smaller movies in terms of budgets anyway. These movies that are costing 300 million, it's insane. It's ridiculous, especially with the streaming model now, or the era of streaming. Oh yeah, I guess you could say it like that. The era of streaming. Studios need to prepare, need to figure out ways to make, some of these bigger, more blockbustery movies for cheaper. They have to, because we can't be going on like this indefinitely, and And look, I mean, I know there are a certain section of the population out there that would like to think that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny failed at the box office because it's a piece of shit movie. It's one of the worst movies of all time ever created. That's not why it failed. That's not why it failed. Okay, because if that's your logic, right? If that's how you measure it, then all the Transformers movies therefore have to be some of the greatest movies ever made in motion picture history, right? Because they've made billions. So, there's other factors on why Indiana Jones failed. There's factors on why The Flash failed. The Mission Impossible movie right now, right? There's factors. There's other reasons why. I know it's more sexy and, because of the culture war and, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, wokeness, Indiana Jones, it's awful, it's bullshit. Okay, fine. If that helps you, sleep at night, fine. It's not. I've watched the movie. It's not as good as the originals. No, of course not. But it's fine. It's not a dumpster fire. I've seen dumpster fires. And if you think the Dial of Destiny is a dumpster fire, then you've never seen a dumpster fire in your life. So, it's like saying, The Flash is a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit. It's awful. It's the worst movie ever. It's like, it's not. It's not. It's not. There's other factors, right? So studios have to start thinking, how are we going to make these kinds of movies, fun, these blockbuster type movies for a lot less? We can't be we can't be spending $300 million on movies. We just can't. So hopefully we'll see a return to that, but I don't get the impression that Sound of Freedom is going to lead the way in that necessarily. All right. Have I got all the super chats? I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody yet. I just want to make sure. Here we go. David Coe sends in $4.99. Thank you, David. Says, do you have by any chance seen clips of Jamie Lee Curtis in The Bear? I haven't. No, she is fantastic. I wish that's how she played a traumatized Laurie Strode. I haven't. No, I haven't. I wouldn't mind seeing that, though. I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen The Bear. Ba 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 ba, b b b b. Frank Riker says burning bra Barbie. I love it. I think, yeah, Frank, because you said that you and Sarah might go. You know what? I think you'll feel like I do. Like, okay, that was funny. You know what I mean? I think so, but maybe not. Maybe Frank won't. I don't know. But Frank's got some good taste. He gets it. Frank gets it. Frank gets some stuff. So and that's how I felt about it. I mean, it's not for me, obviously, but again, because Barbie is it's satire to the extreme. It's funny. Like anytime you make fun of anybody, men, women, genders, the stereotypes of things, right? It can be funny, And so when you see Ryan Gosling, trying to be manly and, and how he comes to the real world and he feels accepted and, because everything's so manly and it's so extreme, the posters of Rambo and it's funny because it's not like that. Like it's the stereotype, right? They're leaning into the stereotype, going to the extreme. And like I said, I think that's why it worked for me, because the whole movie's extreme. So if the whole movie's extreme, that's probably the best place to do something like that. It's only when you shoehorn things into reality sort of based, like unless it's a film about that, of course. But that's where Black Christmas 19, which, is about the patriarchy and feminism and girl power and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't work for me because it's like, this feels really inauthentic. But Barbie, it's like, yeah, because it's Barbie. It's Barbie. It's all about girl. That's what she is. Astronaut Barbie, Dr. Barbie, President Barbie, roller skating Barbie, lawyer Barbie. That's Barbie. What do you expect? Any guy going to this movie, walking out going, well, that didn't make it a little feminine. It's Barbie, dude. It's Barbie. And you guys know me. I'm not somebody that likes all this woke nonsense bullshit. I'm not. But, come on. We got to pick our battles here. It's Barbie. Okay. And I don't think the Barbie movie making some sort of satirical statement about, the extreme, like the extreme satire of men is somehow going to change things. Okay. I think we're going to be okay, guys. Okay. I think we still have our penises. I think we're okay. It's funny. I thought it was funny. Shoot me. I thought it was funny. And the fact that I can admit this to you should let you all know I'm not afraid to tell you how I really feel. I'm not. Like I'm not. Like I said, I'm a huge Avatar fan, and that's not cool. Kind of sucks because but it's not cool to like Avatar. If I like a movie, I like a movie. If I don't like a movie, I don't like a movie. I make up my own mind. I don't turn to, the culture war channels to figure out what I think. I gotta look this person up to find out what I think. No. What do you think? Well, I kind of liked it, but they don't like it, and it's not cool to like it. Yeah, but did you like it? Well, yeah, kinda. Well, then fucking like it. Fucking like it. Who cares? Who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? Like it. I mean, if you genuinely didn't like it, well, that's fair. But usually you can tell people are. Usually you can tell the ones that genuinely didn't like it because they're so well-rounded in their arguments and they can back it up and all that kind of stuff. And then there's people that they're just recycling sort of the common buzzwords and they really don't, they're just kind of saying what everybody else is saying. And you're like, yeah, that's probably somebody that probably thought it was okay, but maybe is afraid to say anything. I don't know. And I'm not saying you're like that, you out there, whoever you are, but it's just those things, right? It's just that, yeah, I get it. Listen, yeah, there's some moments in Barbie where, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, that's on the nose. Yeah, I get it. But it's funny because it's so extreme. You know what I mean? That's why it worked. At least for me anyway. And I can laugh at it and just be like, yeah, okay, and like, guys, come on. What straight heterosexual males out there wouldn't want to sit for 2 hours and watch Margot Robbie? I'm just saying, you're missing out, you guys. I mean, I'm just saying. Then you're going to get guys going, well, I don't like Margot Robbie. She's like a 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. Like, okay, all right, fine. Hey, I'm more brunettes than blondes, but I'm just saying, I mean, it's just, come on. If Margot Robbie were into any of you, you'd be like, okay. Anyway, so let me see here. Scared Straight Productions says, Dave, H2O was the first Halloween I watched at 5 years old in 99. Amazing. Love it. I remember being scared of the cover with Michael's face. Ironically, my girlfriend of 7 years was born the same day the movie was released. That's so cool. It was meant to be. Love it. Oh, did I miss any super chats? I love it, dude. Love it. No, just the 3 already. Okay. All right. Just the 3 already. Aaron Click says, I saw someone complain that Barbie shouldn't have been marketed towards kids, but I never got that impression. It looked more adult oriented to me. Yeah, it is. I agree with that. Yeah. My girlfriend and I were talking about that. We were like, it's not a kid's movie. Like, it's not a kid's movie, for sure. It wouldn't be a kid's movie. It is more, I would say it's more geared towards, the women that grew up with Barbie, right? Like my sister Jill, she loved Barbie. A lot of girls did. Let's not forget, that doll's been around since 1959, okay? It's a long time ago, and there's been many different iterations and all that kind of stuff. So, and I love the opening of Barbie. If you haven't seen it, that nod to 2001, like that kind of satire, it's fucking funny, man. And the girls like breaking the dolls. Oh, it's so good. It just was funny. But anyway, a lot of girls really they have a lot of fond memories of Barbie. So it is not a surprise to me that this movie is blowing the lid off the box office. It's not a surprise to me at all because women around the world, obviously there's certain cultures where it didn't resonate, but certainly America, Canada, Europe, maybe, I'm not sure, but certainly America and Canada, but it's doing big gangbusters overseas too. Barbie's huge. And there's a lot of women over 40 who grew up on this doll and who played with Barbies. I mean, even my little sister, who's 8 years younger than me, I remember she had the Barbie house, dream house thing, and I would come in as a typical boy. I would come in with like a blanket and be like a tornado, and she'd playing with her doll, I'm like, tornado! And it'd smash everything, and she actually loved it. It was a lot of fun, of course, because I got to be manly about it, right? I got to come in and be like a dude. Tornado, action movie Barbie. Anyway, so it was fun, but it was huge. I mean, Barbie was huge. So again, whether you like it or not, or it's not your thing, we can recognize the cultural significance of this. So it is no surprise to me that this thing is nearly at $1 billion in 10 days. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Why? Because it's Barbie. That's why. And it's not like an animated cartoon that's kind of like, this half-ass. No, this is Margot Robbie. This is Ryan Gosling, right? This is, you got two A-listers here, huge, and the cast is great. And Greta Gerwig, man, talented director, dude. Like it's no surprise to me at all. So these women who are over 40 are bringing their daughters. The women over 60 are maybe bringing their daughters and their granddaughters. And there's a lot of women out there, man. Just saying, there's a lot of women out there that are dying to see this movie. Of course, it's not for us, obviously, but I laughed, man. Like I said, I laughed. And so, yeah, this is huge cultural phenomenon. And I thought it was really well put together. A little preachy, yes, of course, absolutely. It's there. But it worked because the film itself, I think, is just so over the top. I think it just worked. But I understand for those of you that, don't want to watch it. That's fine. All right, let me see here. Super chat comes in from Matthew Freese. Thank you, Matthew. Sends in $4.99. Says, not a fan of Halloween H2O. Talk to Me, on the other hand, was very good. I might see Barbie just to piss off all these internet alpha male. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, look, I mean, if you're generally not interested in Barbie, that's fine, because obviously it's not your demographic. But to walk away and saying that, you're not a real man if you see Barbie, it's like, no, I'm a real man because I see whatever the fuck I want. And I'm a real man because I choose, I don't let other people tell me what I can like and what I can't like. Like a lot of these YouTube channels and the groupthink confirmation bias that, we now live in, not just in the entertainment world, but it's in, the political world and all that, the teams, right? The tribalism. I'm like, and again, it's not like I'm a perfect person. I mean, obviously I have my biases too, but yeah, if I like a movie, I like a movie, and it's just the way it is. It's like how I wasn't afraid to tell you that I actually really liked the Corey Cunningham story of Halloween Ends. I didn't particularly like the movie because I don't think it worked for the third act in the final film in the epic. I don't think it worked at all. I think it was just, it just didn't work for me. It's not what I would have done. But the Corey Cunningham part of it, I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I don't just come and go, no, you just fucking don't. And listen, that doesn't mean that those types of feelings aren't genuine to those people. That's totally fair. But you guys know me, I'm a far more nuanced person in general. That's why I said on my social media post yesterday that my feelings on Barbie, if you follow me, shouldn't be a surprise, right? Because I'm a very nuanced person. I look at many different aspects, right? I'm also a filmmaker. There's lots of male filmmakers that are watching this movie too, right? I'm not saying I'm, I'm just saying there's lots of reasons to watch this movie. It's not just, you don't have to be into Barbie to watch it. There's lots of things. And so, yeah, like it's a movie that's really well put together. That's like half musical, half, it's like watching Grease, without obviously the strong messages of feminism. But it's got that vibe to it, like that colorful satire over the top. And it's just like, I was wildly entertained. So, and I laughed, Ryan Gosling fucking is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious, let me see. Okay. Bobby Hall says, Frank, would you French kiss an H2O mask with a wig and lipstick? Yeah, Frank says here, we rather talk about Barbie and French kissing intimate objects rather than H2O. It's crazy, isn't it? Well, somebody asked, well, you know how I go off on my tangents. If I only took 30 seconds to answer a question, it probably wouldn't. But then I start talking for like 10 minutes and then that what I'm talking about will trigger ideas in people's minds in the chat room, and then we'll just start this whole thing. You know what I mean? So it's really because of me, really, at the end of the day. But yeah. Let me see here. Let me scroll back. See what people are saying. Tokyo Convertible 92 says H2O on VHS. I have fond memories. Doesn't quite hold up for me, but some things are better in H2O than the new film. It's mostly Laurie Strode. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. It's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, like, I mean, yeah. I can see why people like Laurie Strode's arc in Halloween H2O, because she does have an arc. And she does. I think and it's not that she doesn't have one in the new trilogy, but I sometimes wonder maybe if when we're introduced to Laurie in Halloween 18, if she should have been in the place she was when we were introduced to her in Halloween Ends. So it's been 40 years. She's living in this little house, maybe with her granddaughter, maybe not. She's writing her memoir. She's in therapy, but she's okay. Like she's not Sarah Connor. She's okay. She hasn't been waiting for the night. And then where she is at the beginning of 18 is where she is at the end of Halloween Ends. There's that arc, right? You could have done, I'm not saying you could just copy and paste and swap it. You'd have to change some things, but that's kind of interesting. I've often thought about that and whether or not that would be sort of a direction that you could have got, but you know what? Hey, you know what? I mean, it is what it is. And I do know there are lots of people that do like the arc in Halloween H2O. For sure. Let's check in on the poll and see what's going on. 273 of you have voted. The question is, did you see Halloween H2O in the theater when it came out in 1998? 45% of you say yes. 43% of you say no. That surprises me. So the real question now becomes, why didn't you see it in the theater? Was it because you weren't old enough? Don't really know. I should have added a fourth one. Why didn't you? And then of course and 12% of you say I wasn't born yet. Crazy. 12% that have watched this stream are under the age of 25 or 20. Well, yeah, under the age of 25. That's wild. I wonder why I track such a young audience. Listen, I think it's about, well, yeah, because according to my analytics, I think something like over 25%, I think, are under the age of 34 or something like that. Not that that's young. I just mean like 25 to, it's funny. I guess maybe it's, it probably has something to do with the entertainment industry skews younger anyway, in terms of pop culture and what's happening right now. And it probably tends to skew a bit younger. It could also be my personality. Maybe I resonate more with, a younger crowd. I'm not really sure. Again, there's still 35 to 40% of people who are 36 to 50. I forget how the analytics work. There's still more people in that bracket, in my age bracket, than there is in the younger one. But there's enough in the younger one where I'm like, that's interesting. It probably has something to do, again, with the entertainment movie space, horror space probably skews younger anyway. I'm not sure, or it just could be because of the content as well. Again, I'm not. Be very curious now. I should ask Cody Leach what his demographic is, or how high his. Yeah, be very curious. I find these things, sociologically interesting. Steve Ross says, I'm 48, Dave. That's great. Love it. Love it, Steve. Love it. Love it. Ba-da-ba-dum-bum-bum. Josh McKenna sends in $1.99 and says, did you hear about Paul Rubens? Yes, that's right. Yeah, Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, I saw that today. Yeah, very sad. 70 years old, you know. I believe it was cancer, if I'm not mistaken, right? They said it was cancer, I believe. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's too bad. Oops. Phone on the ground there. That's too bad. I was not a big Pee Wee Herman fan. Now, again, when I say I'm not a big fan of something, that doesn't mean that like I hate it. There were certain things growing up in the 80s that I just never got into as a kid. Still to this day at 44 years old, I have not seen The Never-Ending Story. Now, obviously, you could not be a kid or a young teenager or whatever growing up in the 80s and not know about The Never-Ending Story or The Never-Ending Story. I mean, of course. I mean, it was a pop culture phenom, for kids, and it resonated with a lot of my friends. But to this day, I still have never seen it. It just didn't interest me. It's funny. Today, I think I can go back and watch it more. But for whatever reason, I could watch Sesame Street, which was, Muppets and puppets and things like that. But for whatever reason, a movie with puppets and Muppets never really quite resonated with me. It's the reason why it was up until just a few years ago, I hadn't seen Labyrinth, and I still haven't seen The Dark Crystal, the original. Never-Ending Story. There's for whatever reason, there's certain movies that I just never, I don't know, like a mental block for some reason. And there were certain kids shows, right? Obviously I was into Sesame Street. I was into some Canadian kids shows like Today's Special, which actually did cross the border into the United States. Some of you Americans who are my age might remember Today's Special. That's actually a Canadian show shot here in Toronto. But that, I really liked, and I really liked He-Man and, all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, Pee Wee Herman's, what was it called? Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse or something, or Big Play or whatever it was. I just never, there was something about whoa, I think it's, whoa, well, that's the way we're going to be, Mr. Shoe. I think it's time. Whoa. There was something about that I'm just like, what the fuck kind of coke is this guy on? I don't know. There was something about it just didn't resonate with me. I didn't hate him or anything. I didn't hate him. It was just one of those shows that, Pee Wee Herman's on. Oh, okay. I'll click to the next show. It just didn't really hit me. But as is the case sometimes as you grow older and you become an adult, I've watched the show since as an adult and watched some of his movies as an adult. And I've really enjoyed them. I can understand the appeal, why kids liked him. Another one that resonated with me, which was kind of my Pee Wee Herman, was Ernest, right? Jim Varney, Ernest P. Worrell. Loved all his movies. Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Saves Christmas, the Ernest commercials. Loved Ernest. But my friends, there were some of my friends like, were you like Ernest? I was like, okay. You know what I mean? So some people are into certain things. Some people are. So Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, yeah, he wasn't, obviously, again, like The Never-Ending Story, you could not have been a kid growing up in the 80s and not known Pee Wee Herman. Like he is a cultural 80s icon. I mean, insane. He's huge. He's like Mr. Rogers. He's huge. But just didn't resonate with me. It's funny what certain kids will gravitate towards and what certain kids won't. You know what I mean? And you're not making complex decisions as a kid. You're just, you watch a show and you're like, it's a feeling, just like I find this boring, or I'm just not into it, or I just don't get it, or I just whatever. And and you turn the channel. You're not like compartmentalizing your thoughts going, I wonder why. You don't think of that. It's not, until years later that you look at it, you go, oh, maybe it was because of this, or maybe it was because of that. You know what I mean? I find it interesting. Steve Ross says, I loved Ernest. Me too. Loved Ernest. Ernest rocks. Ernest rocks. Loved it. Hey, Lee the Machine Bowers. Jim Varney's my all-time favorite. Oh, dude. You know what? It's funny. I don't want to go as far as to say that he was an inspiration, because, again, you're not making those decisions when you're a kid. But when I was a kid, my parents divorced when I was about 4. So I was not an only child, but for all intents and purposes, it kind of was like I was, because my siblings were so much older than me. So my brother Neil is 9 years older than me. My brother Bob is 11 years older than me. And my sister Jill is 15 years older than me. So I was, so when I was, say, like 5 or 6, my brothers were like 17 and 15. Like they weren't like mean to me or anything, but they were into their stuff, into their friends and things like that. So I wasn't an only child, but in some ways it kind of like I was. It's kind of like I was. So movies were my friends, and we would rent movies, and I'd watch movies, and I'd watch a movie and rewind it and watch it again, rewind it, watch it again, and I was that kid, and maybe you were that kid. And so, yeah, there was a lot of things that, again, you're not making those complex decisions, but there was a lot of things that I was into and that other people weren't. And a lot of these things, like Ernest, became like a friend. I mean, not literally, obviously, but I was so into Ernest and Alf as well, right? The alien, the show, Alf from Melmac. Some of my silly humor, if you knew me personally, right, which obviously none of you do, but if you did, and you're my friends, you would probably see the influence of my, dad jokes, even though I'm not a dad, but those 40-year-old kind of man jokes and my day-to-day humor and things like that. There's a lot of parallels to Ernest and Alf, and do you know what I mean? And it's fascinating. And it was my girlfriend that actually tipped me onto that. I give her all the credit in the world for a lot of my realizing about. I'm like, oh yeah, she's very smart woman. And I was like, that's true, because I'm not realizing it, and because when I was a kid in the 80s. I would record myself on my mother's boombox. A lot of you, know that. I've told that story. And so, when I was like 5 or 6, and I would do Ernest skits. I was doing Ernest skits, and pretending I was Ernest, so yeah, a lot of influence from Ernest and Alf and obviously Harrison Ford and the movies and all that kind of stuff. And, John Candy and Steve Martin. And yeah, it's so funny. So funny what influenced you as a kid. But yeah, rest in peace, Paul Rubens. Rest in peace, Paul Rubens. Very sad. 70 years old. It's not young, but it's not an age where you're like, oh, that's so young. But it's an age where you're like, oh, that's too bad, because I think we always hope that we all live at least into our 80s. Do you know what I mean? Like my parents died at 69 and 67, and it's not like it's young, like you know what I mean, like they're 30 or something. But it's in today's world with today's healthcare and all that kind of stuff. It is on the younger side. 69 and 67, it's on the younger side for sure. But yeah, rest in peace, Pee Wee Herman. Oh, Frank Riker, my man Frank sends in $5, says, Dave, can you tell us the heartwarming plot of an Elf Christmas? Oh man. Yeah, that was an episode of The Slaughtered Lamb where we were doing our favorite Christmas movies, I think, or something like that. And okay, listen, the Alf Christmas story, there's a Christmas special. And it's quite deep. It's quite serious. It's quite deep because it deals with depression and suicide And I know, because when you think of Alf, you're like, whoa, but it is a really moving episode that the network didn't want to do because of the themes. And Paul Fusco, who's the creator of Alf, the voice of Alf, of Alf, excuse me. I know I keep saying Alf, but that's just how I've always said it. I don't mean Alf, I mean Alf. So if you hear me say Alf, chances are I'm talking about the alien from Melmac. But he wanted to do it, and it's so sad. I hate to say this, but it's about this. They go up to like it's going to sound dark because of what you think of the Alf show. And I was talking about this on the Slaughtered Lamb, and Frank and Darren are like, oh my God, that doesn't sound heartwarming and Christmas magical. But there's a really important message there. Like, it's a really moving show. It's not a feel-good show. It's an Alf Christmas special that's like 2 hours long or something. It's like a movie, and it's really a moving, it's got a lot of weight to it. It is heavy. Because it's about a little girl. It's based on a true story. And, Alf and Willie and Kate, long story short, they take a vacation up into the mountains or something for Christmas, and Alf gets lost, and he gets up on, he ends up in this back of this van or whatever, and he's shipped off to the hospital. And there's this gentleman who is he takes these toys around to the cancer ward of these dying children, and Alf happens to be in amongst these toys, and he's hiding. He's like, oh my God, I can't say anything. And he ends up meeting this little girl who is terminally ill. And he ends up speaking, and she's like, oh my God, it's magic. He's come to life, and Alf learns a very important lesson from this little girl, because Alf, as you know, if you've watched the show, he tends to be selfish, and, it's funny, right? It's satirical, obviously, but he's selfish and he only thinks of himself. And he learns a really important lesson from this little girl, and who is terminally ill. And it's a beautiful story. Like, it's like, take it out of the Alf context, right? And say it's just like a movie, a very moving drama, right? Like a very moving drama film about this, right? Like, you wouldn't bat an eye. You just think it was a very moving film. But because it's Alf, you expect it just to be a hilarious, funny show. And it is, like, the whole show is, but this was a very moving episode and very important. Instead of just doing a silly episode about Christmas, they did a really deep moving, which was very heavy, don't get me wrong. But when you look at it now, I think audiences are more mature for it now. And he learns from this little girl a very important lesson. And then Alf pays it forward and ends up saving somebody else's life. And so it just was, it's deep shit, right? You're like, whoa, that's really deep. But anybody who's seen it, and I don't know who has, but anybody who's seen it knows what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, it is a very moving, deep, with a very important message. It's a great episode, but it's not a feel-good Christmas movie. Well, depending on what you're, I guess you could look at it from a certain point of view, but it's not Ernest Saves, Christmas, or Alf with Will Ferrell, or, Bad Santa, or Christmas Vacation. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. It's a very moving, deep thing with Alf, the alien. But if you've never seen it and you're a huge fan of Alf, give it a chance. Give it a chance, because it's a very moving film. And I say film too, because it was also shot on film. It was shot on 35. To give it a film look, like an actual, cinematic movie look to it, because the sitcom was shot on video. So there's a video look to it. There's like a 29, 30 frames per second look to it, right? Whereas the Alf Christmas special has 24 frames. So it's got a very cinematic movie look to it. And it is a movie. I mean, it's like, I think it aired, I don't know if it aired it all in one shot, or if it was like one Monday night it aired the first part, and then the next Monday night aired the second, like, you know what I mean? I think that's how it went down. But that's what Frank is talking about. And Frank and Darren like to tease me, because, on the episode where we were talking about our favorite Christmas movies, Christmas Vacation and Elf and One Magic Christmas. And well, even that's got some deep themes to it. That's another one I don't want to get into. But, there was some joyful Christmas movies in their lists. And then I fucking put a wrench into things with the Alf Christmas special. I get it. All right, we'll go for a little bit longer here. Let me see. Oh, Frank. Oh, Rogue Productions. Okay, thank you. Let me go back. Oh, did I miss a super chat? Or are you just getting me to answer Rogue Productions? Oh, let me see here. Did I miss super chat? Oh, no, you're right. I did. Thank you, Frank, very much. Frank is on the ball. Rogue Productions sends in $1.99. Thank you, Rogue. Says, thoughts on a new Jamie Lloyd timeline? Not now. Nah. I mean, listen, if they did it, of course I'd be there. I think maybe that's something that should have happened, but hindsight's 2020, right? It would have been cool if Halloween 4 was the end of the franchise as we know it. There was never a Halloween 5, never a Halloween 6, never a Halloween H20, never any other Halloween movies ever. And in 2018, the last Halloween movie was Halloween 4. And because it's a great ending, right? Full circle. Oh my God, evil's won. And, nearly 30 years later in 2018, they announced they're going to do a sequel, right? A legacy. But of course, back then, you don't know that in 30 years, there's going to be this new trend called legacy sequels and don't make any more because you'll have and Danielle Harris will want to, you don't know that, right? Of course. But if you did know that, I'd be like, wait, man, don't make any Halloween movies between now and then. And you make a Halloween movie. But then again, well, I'll get to that in a second. Because how cool would it be in 2018 if they made a direct sequel to Halloween 4, right? Danielle Harris comes back. You can bring back Jamie Lee Curtis if you want. She faked her death, maybe. You know what I mean? Like that, that's interesting to me. Now, and for those of you out there that think they're actually going to do it, I know Danielle Harris she said on her podcast, she had that sort of, I don't know, off the cuff, met Malika Akkad in the elevator. Here's my pitch. You never say never, but I don't think Malika Akkad has any interest in doing that. Of course, he's a businessman. He's a producer. If there's a lot of money, to be made, he probably would do it. I don't know. But right now, I just don't see it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not a marketable, viable option. It would be very confusing to the general movie-going audience. They'd be like, what the fuck is this? I thought Michael died. You know what I mean? You have to remember that movies are marketed not just to their fan base, but to general movie-going audiences. They have to do that. As big of a fan base as we think we are, we pale in comparison to the average horror movie fan. It's because remember, there's a lot of horror fans, but they're not all Halloween fans, right? You're a horror fan, but are you all a fan of everything horror? No, right? So studios need to market movies to everybody. And so the Jamie Lee Curtis returning, the Danielle Harris returning, that might be cool for a Halloween fan, but it might be absolutely fucking dumb to a just average horror fan, and then very confusing to the average movie fan. So, I think there is something there, but I just think it's way past its expiry date. Let me see. I wish I had my water in here. I don't have my water, goddammit. I don't have my water, goddammit. I wish I had my water. I don't have my water. All right, we'll go for, what is it? Yeah, we'll go 5 more minutes maybe. Jonathan Ball says, it's my humble opinion that Halloween Ends really killed any desire for a Halloween movie series in the next 5 years. However, I'm intrigued by Jason's series coming to Peacock. Yeah, Jonathan, you're not the only one. You said I killed any desire for a Halloween movie series next 5 years. Yeah, but winning solves everything, right? they come up with an idea. You see that first trailer. Ooh, you're like, ooh, imagine, Jonathan, you see that first trailer. There's a Haddonfield series coming to Netflix. Like, I don't fucking care. And the trailer begins. Halloween night, 1963. And you're like, oh, they're going back to Michael Myers in 1963. This is so dumb. Russellville, Illinois. And you're like, ooh, what's this? Russellville, Illinois, Halloween 1963. You see the leaves blowing across the road, right? The leaves in the trees swaying back and forth. And there's those gusts of wind. That kind of stuff, right? You know what I mean? And a little bit of lightning flashing in the distance. And the camera, it's this tracking shot. The camera is moving towards this house, you know what I mean, in Russellville, Illinois. And there's this family through the window. We see this family through the window, you know what I mean? And they're happy, or they're just about to sit down for dinner. It's this wife and these 2 kids, and they're kind of laughing. And where's Dad? I don't know. And the camera kind of moves past the window and moves around the corner and moves towards the garage. And it peeks in through a window, and there's this little, this one bulb. It's just this bulb hanging there, right? Just a singular bare bulb hanging in the garage, and it's on, but it's illuminating sort of this tungsten warm orangey glow, and you can still hear the wind outside. Something like that, right? And we move in, and we see kind of this man, but we don't really see what he looks like. It's kind of this man, right? And then all of a sudden he reaches for a hacksaw, and he picks it up, and his hand is kind of dirty, and he looks at the hacksaw, and you hear one of the kids in the distance in the house, kind of just through the wind, "Where's Dad?" Charlie Bowles. Ooh, come on, Jonathan. You'd be like, okay, I might have to check that out. Imagine that. Ooh, I just saying, I may want to check it out. And that right there, that's just me shooting from the hip, improvising, setting the tone, setting the mood. That's just me doing that, folks. That's just me doing that. I don't know. Okay, let's see. 3 more minutes. Bobby Hall says, the main thing in Ends that still baffles me is Laurie not reacting to Corey wearing Michael's mask. She should have grilled him about where he got it, since that means he knew where Michael was. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why she didn't, but she didn't. And it may remain a mystery, my friend. It may remain a mystery. Let me see here, scrolling back. Okay, I haven't missed any super chats, right? Frank is usually on it. Let me see here, Rogue Productions, Frank Reicher's the last one, I believe. Yes, I believe so. All right. Just want to make sure. By the way, I should mention this. I did mention this on my Facebook page. I am selling a signed Halloween 2 Trick or Treat Studios Michael Myers Blood Tears mask, signed by Jamie Lee Curtis, John Carpenter, and Dick Warlock. It's selling for $750 US. So if you or somebody you know is interested in that, you can get in touch with me via Instagram or my Many Things Facebook page. I posted it. It's on there. There's photos on there as well that you can check out. Just thought I would mention that and try to reach as more people as I can. So just a reminder. If you're interested or somebody who you know might be, there you go. Halloween 2 Trick or Treat Studios mask. Okay, so keep that in mind. But it's signed by Jamie Lee Curtis, Dick Warlock, and John Carpenter. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Arthur Vega sends in $10, says, hey, Dave, do you have a favorite Indiana Jones shot? Mine is in Raiders when Indy is running up the hill and the Havito tribe right behind. Oh, that's a great shot. Dude, there's so many shots. That's a great shot, dude. Dude, there is so many great shots. So many great shots. But I got to say, one that there's so many, and I feel like I'm not doing justice by not mentioning them all. But one that I love is the sunset shot. In Raiders, when they're digging and you hear I don't know what they're singing. You know, you know what I'm talking about. And there's that shot and you hear the wind. And Indiana Jones, it's the silhouette and the setting Egyptian, the setting, well, I don't actually think they shot that in Egypt, but you know, it's supposed to be the Cairo sun, I guess, or whatever they are, Tunisia, whatever they are, the setting sun, you know, and there's the silhouette of Harrison Ford and he puts on the hat and he's walking he's walking back and forth surveying, you know, like the fucking manly man he is. You know, he's fucking Indiana Jones. Fucking love that shot. Love that shot. It's epic. But yeah, dude, there's so many. Like, that's a great shot. You know, love the shot of just him on the bridge. You know, when he's got the stones in his bag and he's got the sword in the other and he's like, you want the stones? Let her go. Let her go. You know, and she's like, what do you think? Just that shot with him, you know, fucking bare chest, shirt open, sweat, just standing there like the fucking manly man he is, you know. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, you know. We all like to live vicariously through that. We all think we look like him. But yeah, that's like totally, you know what I mean? Like there's so many, dude. There's so many. But there's a couple right there. Frank Riker sends in $5, says, Dave, no, do it document. Oh, do it document, do it very slow. Do it document? You mean do it do some more. Yeah. Do it do some more. Do it slowly. Yeah. That's right. Do it do some more. Do it slowly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, True Lies, baby. True Lies, 1994. Yeah, that's, oh, fuck, man. That's a great movie. And for years, they talked about doing a sequel to that movie, too. Don't do it now. Like, no. It's don't do it now. Way past. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that the Twins sequel, you know, I'm kind of, when Eddie Murphy dropped out of the project, I was like, I kind of lost interest anyway. But I'm really glad that they're not doing that anymore. I said, guys, you're too old. You're too old. Yeah, I get you, man. I get you. All right. All right. Did I get there was just those two that came in. I believe I got them. Did I get them? I just want to make sure that I got them. I want to make sure that yes. I have got them. All right, folks. Well, listen, that is going to do it for this episode of McRae Live, episode 216. Thank you, of course, to the Super Chat questions that came in tonight, and all the non-ones as well, of course. And thank you to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, and Cody Snyder. Thank you so much for doing what you do. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on Halloween H2O, but specifically your memories of when you first watched Halloween H2O. Was it the first Halloween movie you ever saw? Was it the first Halloween movie you saw in the movie theater? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Tell me, share some memories into the comment section below, and let me know. I think it'd be fun to kind of read everybody's, memories of when they first watched Halloween H2O. And at some point in the near future, I will be doing a similar episode on the 35th anniversary of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, because it's the 35th anniversary of that movie this year. So anyways, folks, have a great rest of your Monday. Happy Monday to you all out there. Don't forget, It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2 in demand. Link in the description. We can still raise more money, folks. It's only going to make the movie better. Just saying. It's down there. Don't forget. I want to do that epic stream with you. Just saying. 2 associate producer perks are still left. Just saying. You want to be a part of Black Christmas history, right? Just saying. All right, folks, have a great rest of your Monday. And yeah, I will talk to you all soon. All righty. Cheers.